Welcome to this episode of Spacecraft Guide, the channel that describes how the most historic spacecraft work. In this issue of Spacecraft Guide, we have a big special for you. So on this premiere issue, we continue our work on the lunar lander, and we have a new panel that we're going to be going over. But we also have a new functionality that we're going to use. And not only is it going to have each component explained with one click to get to that information, but also we're going to have a way to look at the panel. And if you stay with us and I'll go all the way to the end, we're going to show you how to get a month free of the spacecraft guide. So you get all of this for a month free. And all you have to do is stay to the end. But before we do that, let's get back to work. So if we come back here and we click on this valve, the primary evaporation #1 valve, which we worked on this week, it takes you to the primary evaporation flow valve #1 page. Now, as you can see, it's the evaporation flow, and what that does is it routes water through a flow limiter to the primary sublimiter. The subliminator is what takes the water and uses it for cooling the equipment on board the spacecraft. Now, the flow limiter limits the water flow rate during sublimiter startup period. Open, the water is routed through the flow limiter to the primary sublimiter. Closed, the water is stopped from being routed to the flow limiter to the primary subliminator. So the best way to describe it is to look at it on the schematics. When we click on schematics, we see it is the primary evaporator flow #1 is right here, and it controls this valve. We have to come down a little bit lower and see that the water separators, now this is water that's been that's in the suit or in the cabin, and that water or the atmosphere is taken, the water is taken out, so it's not suitable for drinking. So they take it up here, and this valve comes up to the primary subliminator. Now from there, this is where it starts to make sense. We come down to this graphic, and we see right here the primary water subliminator. So the water is coming in here. Now that water comes over into the aft equipment bay cold rail. So the water comes in, and then it is chilled. And then it comes down to the sent cold rail. So all these cold rails here, the water comes into this line, as you can see, and through this line, as you can see, joins up here, then comes back around from the cooling system and is pumped down into cool all the equipment. And the water that comes through here cools all these electrical equipments that is generating heat. And then the water, after it goes through there, it comes through, it also goes through the cooling assembly and gets pumped through. So this is a way to capture water that is in the atmosphere of the suit and the cabin, so it can help cool things off. In this month, I want to show you on a special new thing that we have created for the spacecraft guide, and that is a panel explanation. So not only do you have the component we are also going to have a panel description. So when you click on that, it actually takes you to the description of what that panel does. Now here we have the water management section panel, and it stores water for metallic consumption, evaporation, cooling, fire extinguishing. So here it's going to tell you about that whole panel. Now this is something new that we've created, and the reason why we've done that is to make it easier and clean things up. Instead of doing each component here separately, we're going to do the panel, and then from the panel we're going to have components on it. Now what I'd like to do is get your feedback on this, and if you save this far, we thank you first of all, and second of all, we're going to have a special for you. If you look at this panel and you see and you go through these, we would like your feedback. If you give us feedback on it, we will give you a month free of looking at the spacecraft guide. So just give us your feedback, and then we will tell you about a special deal for you to get a month free of spacecraft guide. That's all for this week. If you would like to use this interactive virtual reality exhibit on the command module, the lunar module, and the surface of the moon, just go to our Patreon page, and the link will be down below.